Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kostuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Mara's EV6 in Cana, New York, this is Wisdom of the Sages, Daily Yoga Podcast. Welcome to the show, everybody, with your host, Raghunath. Whoops. And your co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kostuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Day. It's Sleep-In Saturday. I slept in a little bit, if you want the God honest truth. I think my body needed it, Kostuba. I tried to hear my body. Yeah. You know what, Kostuba? Self-care. Self-care. It's about self-care today.
Sometimes you got to push yourself.
Self-care Saturday. Okay. So we're in a car because the internet's got issues and because and we got some other issues here. Our computer's out of juice, so I'm going to have to switch this myself.
So why doesn't Mara get on the phone right now? And then when your computer dies, the phone will be up and running.
Oh, you are a clever man. You're a clever man.
Mara's on it.
How do we even survive without you, Kostuba?
Maybe
when you put the food in your mouth, you start chewing the food. Okay, yeah. And then what else? When do I sip the water? You wait till after.
Why are you being so sarcastic with me?
The water. Oh, I love you. Okay. It's Sleep-In Saturday. It's Q&A Day. For those listening on Facebook, guess what? We do a daily yoga podcast, yoga philosophy. You're not going to learn up dogs or dropping back into wheel here. You're going to learn where all that gymnastic stuff is supposed to take you. This is stuff you learn in a yoga teacher training for about 3 hours if you're lucky, 4 hours maybe in a good one, 5 hours tops. But really, it's just, and generally when people learn it, they're like, wow, that's sort of interesting. And then back to life. But the real way that the yogis teach to really change your consciousness and change your thoughts and change your day-to-day is by hearing on a regular basis. And that's what we do here. That's why we set up this podcast. We want transformation. We want change. And so we study from this sacred literature of connection, the Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses, actually, for your edification. For your edification.
Okay.
And we got some great questions. On Saturdays, the day people write in their questions, and we try our best to answer them. And there is no show tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh, I got a special announcement, though, sir. Myself and the spiritual scientist, Chaitanya Charan, are doing an event at the Super Soul Farm. Yoga, kirtan, storytelling, and of course, the scientist is going to take, especially for the skeptical minds, like, how does this spiritual stuff, it sort of makes sense, but how does this fit in with, modern science and psychology and what? We're going to tie it all together that day. And that is happening on the auspicious day of May 20th at 1 p.m. If you're interested, I'm not sure if it's up on my site yet, but go to, you can email Mara. It's $108 for the day, including dinner. And it's worth it. Come up for the day for the farm. 1 o'clock to like 7 o'clock. And it's email Mara at supersoultrainings@gmail.com. And write in the, what's that called? The subject line, right? Scientist.
Okay.
Scientist. supersoultrainings@gmail.com on May 20th. Okay. That's your announcement.
Great.
Okay, sir, let's dive into these questions before the computer dies, unless you want to make a statement about your life.
No, I was just going to say if people want to write in questions, they should write to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com
Yeah, we'll
and
read
put in
them.
the
We'll
subject
read them.
question.
Yes, we'll read
Q&A.
them. Mara will go through them, send them to Kastuba. Kastuba will send them to me. That's how this game is played. Okay,
All right.
let's dive in.
First question. Do you want me to read it? Do you want to read it?
I'm going
For
to ask
both
you
of
to
us.
read. I'm going to ask you to read.
Okay, so this is from Farmer Jerry from Texas.
Farmer Jerry.
Farmer Jerry here again. What do you think he looks like? He got a straw hat on.
He's got a straw hat. I don't know. It depends what he's farming.
All right, Farmer
Well,
Jerry here again.
Sometimes you call farm animals like you know, you could be a farmer that's not a vegetarian. You can be farming animals for slaughter.
Let's hope
It
the
could be a
best
little
for Farmer
rougher,
Jerry.
little rougher around the edges than, you know, we got Farmer Mallory here. It's like very, you know, anyway, I don't know what Jerry looks
Okay,
like.
Farmer Jerry here again.
I'm saying she's not rougher on the edge. Farmer Jerry's probably a vegetarian.
I've noticed for the past few months, my awareness has grown stronger. I can now sit back behind my flow of thoughts and actions and see what's going on and where it's coming from.
Wow.
I like the analogy of the horses and the carriage. The mind is the carriage. The consciousness is the driver. The horses are the senses. You know, we get that a little bit different from the Upanishads, right? We get the body is the carriage, you could say, or the chariot, right?
Yeah.
The mind, the horses are the senses. That's the same. The mind are the reins of that you connect the horses to the driver, which is the intellect, right? But in any case, I see that I'm the driver, and I've let the horses lead the carriage around more than I like to admit. We would say that you're the passenger, but fair enough. It's close enough, right? But our horses are dragging us around. Our senses are dragging us around. I think
or
that's
the driver gets like carjacked. You know,
okay. I think you got another driver.
Some type of villain.
Yeah. Or horse jacked.
Yeah.
Something I'm noticing. I say, okay, I see that I'm the driver, and I let the horses lead the carriage around more than I like to admit. Something I'm noticing is that now that I'm more aware, it seems my attachment to sense gratification is growing stronger.
Interesting.
How is that?
Oh,
Not that I'm always acting on it, but I see the chains I wear. Okay, so it sounds like what he's saying, Raghunath, to me.
I love this email, by the way.
What?
I love this email.
Okay.
Yeah, I really feel like this person is very sincere about his spiritual life right now. And he's experiencing that dawn of deep realizations of self-reflection, which you have to have. As you come on spiritual.
Right. You got to start to ask these questions. And it sounds to me, it's kind of like if you have like a shirt that's like dirty, then if it gets a stain, you don't notice it so much.
Sure, right.
But if you have a shirt that's like perfectly pure, clean white, then even a small thing you begin to notice. That's small little stain, right?
That's a good analogy. Or sometimes we don't notice things until people point them out to us. And so when we get into spirituality, it's Krishna himself holding a mirror in front of our face.
Okay.
And because we're asking him to, we're calling Krishna, calling spirit into our life. And the first way to step out of the mud is to realize I'm in the mud. A lot of times we don't even realize what's coming out of our mouth, what we're putting in our mouth, what our thoughts are. We don't even think our thoughts are things. We don't think of our mind as separate than us. We don't think that we have some ability to control them. And we don't understand this idea that our senses are pulling us around.
Right.
Did we finish the question?
So when he writes, I'm noticing now that I'm more aware, it seems my attachment to sense gratification is growing stronger. It may not be that that's growing stronger, but just that you're more aware of how your senses are controlling you. Right?
I mean, the common thing is with a person who's an alcoholic, and then he's suppose he's from a good family with good friends. The friends and family finally get to this point of like our good friend, our son, our father, they're ruining their life. And they circle around this person, have some intervention, and say, you know what? you're killing yourself. Look, we love you. We have no agenda. We love you, but you're about to ruin your life. And we want you to stop. And so if the person is like sincere, they'll say, you know what? Man, you're right. I'm not just doing this to me. I'm doing this to you. But I can't even realize sometimes they're in so much denial.
I
No,
don't have a problem.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah.
And so when we get, so either it's a circle of friends or it's Krishna. It's always Krishna, but sometimes Krishna uses a circle of friends or a loved one to like blow your mind. But sometimes like maybe it's not with him. Maybe Krishna's directly just holding up that mirror. That's how I felt when I first went to Vrindavan. I felt like I was, I kid you not, I wrote this in my journal. I felt like I was tripping. I had so many realizations about how everything I do is motivated by my ego, and I never realized it. Everything. And I was just like, who am I? I've created like this costume that I wear around on a regular basis just to impress people, to impress the opposite sex, to make people think I'm strong or worthy or got it together. It's like, I'm so fake. And in that, it's not like now I'm become more fake. I just never realized it before. So this self-reflection is beautiful. And it means you are being directly tagged by Krishna and given some light. And it's a very beautiful thing.
Okay. So my question is, Farmer Jerry writes, do y'all have a tool for bridging the gap between being aware and actually taking the action to make necessary changes? Okay, now I'm aware I'm being controlled by my senses, right? Well, what's the next step? I'm grabbing the reins again, but the horses are still a bit wild at this point. Once again, much appreciation for the work you do. Much love. Thank you, Farmer Jerry.
Right.
You want to get started? You want me to start? What do you want to do, brother?
I thought we started on this one, but
well, I mean, that's the question. That's my point. Now, let's not just wax poetic about, this thing in general. But he's asked a question: do you have any tools for bridging the gap between being aware and actually taking action to make the necessary changes in the context of gaining control of one's senses, and you could say one's mind too?
Sure.
Any tools?
You say waxing? That was very interesting. We talked about waxing yesterday.
The other day, 2 days ago. Yeah.
And we defined it, and now you're using it in vocabulary. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you, Raghunath. Thank you. Very good boy.
Good boy. You're using your new vocabulary.
All right.
Well,
do you have any tools, here?
I want to say I was very attracted to Bhakti Yoga because I read a lot of books on spirituality, and I was like, that's spiritual information. That's spiritual insight. That's a great spiritual analogy. But I was actually looking for a particular regular practice. And when I got more into Bhakti, I was like, oh, this is what you can do practically to harness the senses. And so one is a regular chanting on malas.
Okay.
It's like an Indian rosary. It's 108 beads. If you don't have them and you're listening to the show, I highly recommend you get some. Get yourself a nice quality, even if you don't have a nice quality pair, but get yourself ones that for you, like, this is going to be my sacred beads and my sacred time, where I'm going to spend however long it takes. And there's no time limit for that one round. It can take you an hour. It can take you 10 minutes, whatever it is, but make it sacred, where you are chanting the Maha Mantra and you are calling divinity into your life. You're calling Radha and Krishna into your life. And when you call Krishna, he's the ultimate magician. He's the ultimate yogi. They call him Yogeshwar, the master of mystics. When you call him into your life, magic starts to happen. We've seen it with ourselves. We've seen it with everybody that come in contact with this. People are nodding in Zoom right now. Magic happens because this stuff is real. And as we call Krishna into our life, he'll start to shift our life around. He'll give you these type of realizations that you're getting right now, farmer. And I would recommend one round a day and make a commitment to it. I think it's a simple, small commitment. And then from that one commitment, it's like opening a door. And in that room, you'll be like, oh, this is a different room. This is a different me. This is a different life. But there will be more doors to open. right? And some doors will be like bad doors. They'll be like which will be led by lust, greed, anger, envy, and some will be light doors, doors of light with green lights. Go forward, move forward, young man, young farmer. Those are the doors you have to open, because as we get to one level of our spiritual life, then Christian will say, "How serious are you?" And then we're going to be asked, take one giant step forward, and we'll be like, maybe. So this is the path, and he's dead serious about it right now, and he's getting all this reciprocation. It's beautiful to hear.
Nope. I thought we lost you there.
Oh, did you hear what I said?
No, we heard everything. It was just at the end, it just lagged for a second. I was worried that maybe your battery was about to
Okay.
disappear.
No, we got the charger going, and the electric cars charging.
So you're up. You're good now.
I think we're good.
All right,
Mara
that's
fixed
awesome.
it. She's very wise.
Thank you, Mara.
I criticized Mara yesterday. Can I share with you?
Okay.
I said, Mara, I think your knitting is a distraction. I think your
This
knitting
has become
is
a big topic.
I think it's like the Amish way. I said it was. I think it was the Amish way of video games, of just knitting. And she's like, no, I'm thinking, I'm hearing. And I say, no. You want to think and hear, you mow a lawn. Mowing a lawn, it's like I'm calling the gods, the celestial beings to channel. Anybody who mows a lawn knows this. It's a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
You don't know. You don't have a lawn, sir.
Okay.
Look at the people out there mowing. Nod with me. Spiritual, you get higher beings commune with me during mowing.
Are you sure they're higher beings? I mean, I'm sure some beings are communicating with you, but are you sure they're higher?
Mara?
Higher than what?
Okay, what happens when you knit? Okay. I'm going to cut her a little slack today. All right,
allow her to express
Mara,
her inner journey.
I knit while I listen to Bhagavatam, Prabhu.
See?
It's the only time I really knit.
Okay.
And it helps you concentrate on the Bhagavatam?
Yeah, I don't knit because I'm like so super sattvic that it's just like super peaceful. It's more like the opposite, where I got like stuff I want to do, so it like keeps my hands busy and helps me focus on.
It helps you burn a little of that distracting energy so that you can focus your mind on the Bhagavatam.
Exactly. Otherwise, I'd want to be doing something. You know, I'd be like, oh, I got a to-do list to make for the day. So instead, it just like keeps my hands busy, and I'm listening and focusing on what I'm hearing.
Okay, so it's like a little bit of therapy. I get that. That's different than mowing the lawn. Mowing the lawn is actually like a communion, I'd say.
It's communing with
communion. It is.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? You know, in Waldorf school, when the kids went to Waldorf school, and we'd have a parent-teacher meeting, all the parents would be sitting there. They give the parents, at least my classes did, they give the parents a piece of beeswax. And they're supposed to like make something with the beeswax during the meeting.
Raghunath, this is turning into the age of squirrel. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's bring that back to the question for the farmer. Okay. But I think this was a very important squirrel. And now I understand, Mara. I understand.
We've worked that out.
And you guys understand my spiritual practices.
Get back to Farmer Jerry.
Yeah. Farmer Jerry, you don't mow the lawn. Farmer Jerry's already engaging in, he's tending the earth. He's seeing the magic, but now we've given him the holy name.
Okay.
Now, what are you going to get prescribed to him, doctor, spiritual doctor?
It's a great question. I really like it, and I think I really, as you were saying, I think both you and I can relate to his feelings of like, okay, yeah, now I get it all, but how do I take it to the next level, right? How does this where do I start to get some real traction in being a yogi, and not being controlled by my senses, but being in control of my mind, being in control of my senses. And so, what I always say, Raghunath, is duty is the first step in mastering the mind, right? So I would start there, right? Like Farmer Jerry, is it clear could you write down right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are my duties in life, right? Maybe I'm a husband, maybe I'm a father, right? These are duties. And what do those duties entail? Because sometimes your senses are going to be saying, do this, and duty is going to call you. You're going to say, no, I'm not going to do what you're going to say because I need to be a responsible parent right now. Or I need to be a responsible father right now. Do I have a duty in terms of my own body, in terms of how I eat, in terms of, how I regulate. It has, so much of it has to do with regulation. The mind and senses are saying do this, and you're saying no, no, no. I'm going to regulate you, right? Regulate you on a healthy path, a path that's sattvic, that brings me into the kind of energy where I can have lucid, clear thought. So we'll go to sleep early, wake up early, eat a healthy sattvic diet. All of those things. All of these things will help you gain control. From that sattvic platform, you're able to gain control. So look at how your life is. Maybe most people don't think too much about this kind of stuff. Like, how do you regulate your life? I don't know. Well, I got to go to work, but it's
Right.
like, clearly think of it, even write it down if you have to. What are the regulations that you want to put in your life that you're choosing to follow? Not that you're being dragged in that direction. That's a start, right? Get clear your duties in life. And when it's clear in your mind, when you've articulated exactly what they are, it'll give you greater strength to follow them and not be dragged around. Even this is the kind of thing, like I just recently took up like a new method. Did I discuss it? I don't think I did. A new method of kind of like planning out my days and my weeks.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, it's called the 3-3-3 plan.
Sell me on it.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not going to try to sell you, but if you can take, I'll put it out there and you can take it if you want. So it's like there should be some main activity in your day that's like a 3-hour commitment, right?
Okay.
And then there should be 3 other things in the day that are kind of like lesser commitments,
You got to
And
commit
then,
for 3 hours to something?
yeah. Does that sound that's possible for you to do? 3 hours, one thing in a day? Aren't you supposed to bounce around every 10 minutes to something else? So, you have your most important task of the day, which is like a 3-hour thing. You have maybe 3 shorter tasks. And then you got like 3 important maintenance activities throughout the day, So like, I don't necessarily, I'm not like stuck in that it has to be 3, but it helps me kind of figure out my day, and my week too, because then I can, if I don't clearly point, I want to accomplish these things this week, and if I don't lay them out on that calendar, then there's a good chance that if I just wake up every day and start pursuing these things, there's a good chance that things get in the way. You never do what's important,
It
So
sounds like you're finally taking my advice, Kastuba.
am I?
Yeah. Makeover Monday, move forward, setting your goals.
All the credit goes to you, Raghunath.
Thank you. Happy
But
to
let me
bring-
just throw that
happy to
out there.
bring you up.
Then we can move
Happy
on.
to bring you up, my friend.
Thank you, my old mentor, wise one. And so first there's duty, and even what you're saying, Raghunath, regulating your sadhana, right? Regulating your spiritual practice now, right? First, we were just talking about like our worldly duties.
Yeah.
Now let's also regulate our spiritual practices. Every day, okay, I'm going to chant 1 round every day. I don't feel like doing today. I'm going to do it anyway because I'm a yogi and I'm not controlled by my mind and senses. I'm in control. So I'm going to sit down and chant this 1 round of japa today. Okay, now you're starting to take control, right? And those practices, now you're from your healthy lifestyle practices, you're in a more sattvic place. That means the rajasic energy that's telling you need something else, you need your senses and your mind need something else to be satisfied. You're going to be able to, from even a greater level of conviction, say, no, I don't need that. I don't need that at all. At a certain point, gradually, ideally, these callings, these urges, these demands of the senses, they start to, how's this, Raghunath? They start to wane.
Start to wane, or
Start to
if you
wane.
don't, they wax.
That's right. Right. And so now, and now here's the key. Here's the key, right? This is Bhagavad Gita, right? That you may be regulating your senses, right? But within you, you haven't gotten to the root yet, right? Like my senses want A, B, C, and D, but I know, my intellect knows that I don't want to allow my senses to drag me in that direction. So there's a tension, there's an internal tension, right? Mind and senses want to go this way. Intellect is saying, no, hold on. We're not going that way. It's created this tension within. But what the Bhagavad Gita says, it's only by when your mind and senses gain a higher taste, padam dristva, right? When they taste something higher, then that tension will be released, and your mind and senses will be going. If they can taste, if you want your mind and senses, if you identify the spiritual direction that you want, the healthy direction that you want them to go, right? Then if they gain a taste for that, then they go there automatically, and the tension within you is no longer there because your intellect is satisfied with the direction that the mind and senses are going. And so again, that is, and as Rupa Goswami point out, it can be like at first it doesn't taste sweet, but through the regulation, you keep tasting it and keep tasting it and keep until it becomes sweet. You acquire the taste for it. You acquire the taste for chanting japa, mantra meditation. You acquire the taste for kirtan. You acquire the taste for hearing Bhagavatam. You acquire the taste for all of these different, positive spirit. They become sweeter, and then then the tension that you're writing about, Farmer Jerry, it releases, because your mind and senses are dragging you in the direction that you actually want to go in, and that's our success. And that's a lifetime project too, right? It's something like some things may happen overnight. But a lot of this stuff takes, steady practice. But when you're in an association of people that are doing it with you, that's a key too. I don't know if you're all alone out there on the farm, Jerry, or if you have some other people that you can, we're going to start really promoting the Sage groups these next couple of weeks because the sign up is about to start. I think on Wednesday, we may be releasing that information. Right.
Exciting. If you're listening to this on Facebook for the first time, Sage groups are when our community breaks into little groups, meet once a week.
Yeah.
And they just have like spiritual
small
check-in.
groups.
Small groups, and there's lots. How many groups are there total now?
This
44?
past session we had 43, I believe.
It's amazing. It's amazing, and we get so much positive feedback from Sage groups.
Yeah.
That's
the next step.
Yeah, it's a nice free community building thing we got going.
Yeah, always got to be looking for the next step, and if you're looking for a good next step, that's it right there. Farmer Jerry, think about that. I don't know, he may already be in a Sage group for all I know, but there you go. It's easier when you're doing it with others.
Let's keep this going.
Okay, let's keep it going. So now you have a question for me, I believe.
Yes, I do, sir.
Who's it coming from?
I love this question.
I think this may be the deepest question that's ever been asked on this show, right?
Yeah, this is from Jeremiah.
Okay.
Why does love make me cry? Why does it affect me so much? Why has God made things so beautiful? Are they not beautiful? It's a painful process. Is it all just a blank canvas for us to paint on? Why does
I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this too, Raghunath.
Well, it really depends if he's in the zoomed out or zoomed in. See, if he's analyzing, like our first question, if he's analyzing his material life, why does love make you cry? Because we fall in love in this world. We're eternal beings, and we fall in love with temporary relationships and temporary things and temporary homes, and that breaking of the attachment makes us cry. Now, when the bigger picture, when we fall in love with God, there is just like an inherent, very beautiful longing. So we cry tears of joy in one sense, but it's still a longing to be connected, and it's a yearning to see how much farther I have to go. We start to see our shortcomings, see how much my feet are actually. I'm wearing cement shoes, and I want to fly. So in that sense, it can make you cry too. But also realizing how we are loved, taken care of, sent messengers. These things make you cry because you realize you were never abandoned. So it really depends on how Jeremiah is writing this, but I get it. Is the spiritual world beautiful? It's the most beautiful. It's the most magical. Are things beautiful in the material world? They are momentarily. Like daffodil season ended, and it's heartbreaking. Right? They're beautiful. They're all over the
Get
lawn,
over it, Raghunath.
and it's heartbreaking. Huh?
You're suffering. It's
I'm
heartbreaking.
suffering. It's hard.
Daffodils are
Just the blossom of a flower is heartbreaking.
Okay.
Knowing that, wow, they're about to go. the season's almost over for tulips. But there's hope. The peonies are coming up. You know what? And then the peonies are going to cut back.
They're gonna die.
The material world is heartbreaking and beautiful, and the spiritual realm is actually very, very beautiful, and it's eternal, and it's subtle. The gross things of this world, the so-called tangible things of this world, are dreamlike. That's the mystery. Mysteries explained by Raghunath.
Okay.
What do you think? How would you answer that?
Well, I'm trying to get, again, in one sense, I do think this is the most profound or deepest question that's ever been asked on our show. I think essentially what Jeremiah is asking is like, what is the meaning of this emotional roller coaster that we were on in this world, right? Why does love make me cry? Why does it affect me so much? Why has God made things so beautiful? Are they not beautiful? Are they beautiful? Are they ugly? What is, and it seems to be a very painful process. And then you ask the question, is this all just a blank canvas for us to paint on? Yeah, a lot of people go through life without asking these questions, or if they ask them, it's just like a momentary thing that rises in their mind and that just goes right back down, and they ignore it for months and months or years at a time, right? Yeah, and then maybe something comes and shakes us up, and then we begin to think this. And then you know what? And what's a shame, Raghunath, is that then someone comes along and tells you there's no answers to these questions, so don't even stop thinking about them and just get back into life. No,
just dive right back into getting busy doing nothing. Doing nothing. Okay. There are no answers. There are no good Hey, just because there's a lot of counterfeit and there's a lot of people who are clueless and a lot of people who are busy doing nothing, doesn't mean there's not something authentic.
So I've found that Vedanta, and more specifically Bhakti Vedanta, and most specifically Gaudiya Vaishnavism, like this particular tradition of Krishna Bhakti that we follow, and the literature that represents it, or you can say that it stems from, it gives really satisfying answers to these questions. A
lot of satisfying answers for sure. That's right, sort of why we're here.
And so it gives you a context, a paradigm in which all of these things make sense. So, even within Vedanta, and I went from broader, like from Vedanta, and then tighter and tighter and tighter, because even within like Vedanta, those philosophers that draw from the Vedic literature, you'll find disagreements on these questions, because some will say, you know what, the crying is illusion. Just stop it. It's just because you don't perceive things that you're on this emotional roller coaster, just because you're an illusion, and it's all illusion. Like, and I've quoted this before, Sadhguru was asked about love, right? And he replied that it's not an existential reality, that love is just this, like, existential reality is just like this kind of like, they wouldn't, I don't believe he would, or other Vedantins that are of a similar ilk. How do you like that?
Ilk. Similar to an elk. Okay. The female elk, I think, an ilk.
Okay. But that I don't think they would characterize it this way, but you can say, in other words, they think that reality is just like they would say that it has no variety, no variegatedness, that is kind of, in a sense, plain. They would call it ananda or bliss, but we say that at our very core, we're designed to love. So why does this love make me cry? Because you've been designed to cry. Like you've been designed for the purpose of experiencing the deepest emotional satisfaction and deepest emotional experience.
Going with this. I like this answer. I wasn't expecting this.
You weren't expecting it.
Yeah, no, we're designed to cry. That's my T-shirt.
Okay.
Designed to cry.
We're designed to cry. Yeah. Why does it affect me so much? Because you're designed well.
Yeah.
So, but what's going to help answer and make sense? If you don't have this background information, you do feel like, am I a ping pong ball or like what is it called? Pinball? I'm bouncing this way and that way, and sounds are going off, and sometimes a good thing happens and sometimes a bad thing happens, and I'm just bouncing around this world, right?
Yeah.
But really try to see this world. He said, is this world a blank canvas? And we'll get to that in a moment. But the question is, how do we see this world? What are we meant to see this world as?
How do we become a pinball wizard?
We don't want to become the pinball wizard, but
No?
the point is like, why am I bouncing back and forth? And ever since I was a young man, Raghunath. Oh, you didn't even
Yes.
pick up on it. The
What's that,
pinball
Tom?
connection.
Was that Tommy?
Yeah,
Tommy?
ever since I was a young man, I played the silver ball.
Oh yeah. When I was a young man,
I shouldn't have done
that
it.
silver ball.
Okay, but
What a
here,
song.
try give this a try. Try to understand this world as kind of my big universal sensitivity training. If I've been designed to love, you see, Sadhguru is going to say love is just your mind, right? You are kind of like this blank thing underneath it. Whether it's love or hate or pain or pleasure, these are just things that are temporarily manifesting in the mind. They have nothing to do with reality. And you are kind of like this. It's almost like there's a light bulb and then you got film going across it, right?
And for a person who's really suffering, that can give a little relief. But
that's yes, that's right. I'm not the very idea that I am not existentially bound to the shiftings of the mind. That can be a tremendous
that's
relief.
huge. That's huge, and that sounds like wow. That's the end game.
Yeah.
No, because Juba says no.
Not me, but that's the
picking
neutral
up the
game.
baseball bat, right?
That's the neutral game, right? That's like neutral. But the question is, does that light bulb itself? What's its nature? And again, within Vedanta, you get two different opinions on this, but you seek out the source. Seek what is the source of all the existence and what is the purpose of it all. Now, if you go even to Vedanta, right? What is it? Raso Vai Saha, right? That like it says he is Rasa. It's speaking of God, that supreme absolute truth. God is Rasa. Rasa meaning the essential, delicious, beautiful juice of existence. That is God, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, we are designed, we are of the same energy of God. We are made of the exact same energy as him. So we are also, rasa is also at our very core of our nature. We are designed to exchange rasa, to exchange loving sentiments. That's our very purpose of our design as a soul. And so then what is this world? This world is a reflection of the real world. He asked, he said, why has God made things so beautiful? Are they not beautiful? God has made things beautiful because God is beautiful. And so naturally what emanates from him is beautiful. But this reality is another stage down in a sense. Like, in other words, there's the beautiful God at the center of existence. What emanates from him, reality, right, is beautiful. And then we're existing within the reflection of that reality, which is also beautiful. But it's a reflection, right? Or what you could say within this world, everything, we try to embrace the beauty without God. But within this realm, everything has a shadow, right? Like there's a beautiful form. We want to embrace it, but but every form has a shadow, and we have to embrace the shadow with it. And that's when the crying comes, right? It's like, that's when that type of crying, there's different types of crying, but that's when the crying comes, because this world was, the law of karma is designed in such a way where it's rewarding our selflessness. Because again, what is this world? It's a big universal sensitivity training program, right? To help us get back to our purpose, which is to love purely, entirely selflessly. And so in one sense, the world is playing out in two ways, right? It's like it's fulfilling our desire to taste rasa, but because we're trying to do it without the source, we need the illusory world, right? And so we're trying to taste it all the time, but it's designed in such a way with everything that you taste that's sweet in this world is going to come with some sour, bitter, right? And you're going to have to endure that. To wake you up, to say, I don't want the shadow anymore. I don't want the reflection anymore. I want to get back to the source of it all. he writes, it's a painful process. Yes, it's painful until we understand. And when we understand, then everything becomes sublime, right? Even what appears to be pain becomes like beautiful. Jeremiah asked, is it all just a blank canvas for us to paint on? In other words, is this world, when I hear that phrase that way, my first thought about that is, again, we see ourselves as the center. Like, this world exists for my self-expression, in a
Right.
sense. That's right. Like that's, and I think a lot of people, when they're writing in their diaries or when they're, they might want to think of it that way. I would say, in one sense, it is, if you're thinking of that, what your blank canvas, if you want to paint something on the canvas of this world. See, there's two ways you can look at that, right? One is, this world is my blank canvas. I'm going to make my mark on it and leave the impression of myself on this world.
Right.
There's another way to look at it, is this world is my blank canvas where I'm going to paint something as an offering, right? As an
Subtle
offering to God.
nuance, but completely different.
But it completely flips it. Yeah.
Completely
So
flips
that's
it.
a healthy way to look at the world. This world is a blank canvas wherein I make an offering to God. Let me take my life and make it a beautiful offering to God. Let my words be beautiful. Let my actions be beautiful. Let my thoughts be beautiful. The world's a blank canvas, and I'm just going to paint this beautiful devotional energy all over the place and make that whole thing one big offering to God. That's a healthy way to see it. And then whatever pleasure and pain you experience in that is that's also part of the offering, and then it all ties in together. Krishna is called the Kila Rasamrita Murti, right? He is that form which is capable of supporting, or you could say reciprocating, with all forms of rasa, with all the types of rasa. We just need to understand, why am I on this emotional roller coaster, right? Because I'm designed to love, but I'm trying to love that. I'm trying to love within that realm where everything is constantly shifting. So for a moment, I feel like I'm experiencing it, and then it shifts, and then I'm suffering again. Seek out the source behind it all. That's the key, right? Seek out the source.
Seek the source.
Seek out the source. And then when you get there, it's all going to become very simple. It's all going to make the whole thing, which seems so complicated and so subtle and so difficult to put your finger on and so mysterious, it's all going to become very, very simple. Oh, right. I just had this selfishness that was getting in the way of everything. Now everything makes sense, right? All of that crying is really to help us get beyond that selfishness, which is just holding us back, and we don't. Just keep dipping into this Jeremiah. Keep reading this. Keep find those people that seem to understand it and hear from them. Those people that represent this tradition well, and keep hearing from it and try to apply it in your daily life. And you'll see that step by step, it'll be like, oh yeah, you're gonna begin to feel. Oh, I get it. It's just my own selfishness. That's the problem here. Right? Are you frozen, Raghunath, or are you just listening intently? Did I lose you? Oh, no, I lost Raghunath. And the next question's for him, too. How are we doing on time? We got 15 minutes. Mara, are you there? Maybe she didn't start up her other thing because she didn't feel she had to. I wonder if Raghunath even knows that he's frozen. All right. I will see if we have another question here. Oh, here we go. What do you got? No, that's Professor Snooky. What I got here? Suddenly you're up on my screen. Good to see you. Okay, that must mean that Raghunath is coming back in. So in the meanwhile, I'll see if I can take another question. We got a couple more questions here. One is definitely for Raghunath. I can't even begin to answer that one. Here's another one. This is an anonymous one. And so I don't know who it's coming from, but this is what this anonymous listener writes. They write, I'm a little bit confused about Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Text 24, on why the Devas, or the demigods, are jealous of the human form of life. This is funny because we had a verse that spoke to this I think it was yesterday. I thought the Devas are already devotees of Krishna, and so they'd already be liberated and have perfect knowledge. Do the Devas not have this struggle? Do the Devas not have this or struggle too? Or as Prabhupada says, transcendental knowledge and religious perfection. I don't know exactly. I'm sorry, I can't figure out that sentence. But let's say the question you're asking about the nature of the struggle of the devas, of the demigods. As from what I understand, the human form is born with forgetfulness and must struggle in life, unlike the deva or the devi who are born as devotees. Lord Brahma said, "My dear demigods, the human form of life is of such importance that we also desire to have such life. For in the human form one can attain perfect religious truth and knowledge. If one in this human form of life does not understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his abode, it is to be understood that he is very much affected by the influence of external nature." Okay, sorry if my question is awkward. No, your question is fine. So let's get into this. And we have to understand here that there are many different categories. There's different categories of devas. There's different categories of planet. All of these things become important. Now, we spoke, I think it was on yesterday's show, if I remember correctly, that we spoke about, it might have been the day before, I'm not sure, but we spoke about how the residents of the higher planets, how they look at the earth and they say that is just the right circumstance, right? Because the heavens are, and what we're saying again, when we say the heavens, we're saying that here's the cosmology as it's laid out in the Vedic literature, that there's a spiritual realm wherein time doesn't exist. Things don't grow old, things don't deteriorate, wherein it's a realm of selflessness, right? Wherein nobody's thinking I'm the center of this existence. Everyone is relating to the supreme origin of all, to Sri Krishna as the center. And therefore things are very harmonious and beautiful. Okay. Now, within that spiritual sky where there are unlimited spiritual planets, there's a realm. You could say it's like a big bubble or almost like a cloud within that realm, you could say. And within that realm, we call this realm the material world. Within it, Lord Vishnu manifests. From Lord Vishnu comes unlimited universes, which are like bubbles floating on water. We live in one of those universes. Within each universe, there are 14 different levels of planets, right? And they're kind of in a gradation from, like, at the bottom, these are places of great pain and suffering, up to the middle, which is kind of like our earthly existence, which is kind of like a combination of suffering and pleasure. And then as you rise higher and higher to the higher levels, it actually becomes very pleasant and beautiful. The pleasures that we enjoy in this world, they pale in comparison to the pleasures that these beings are experiencing in that realm. So although those realms are places of great enjoyment, they're not great for deepening one's spiritual detachment and becoming free from the entanglement of this world. They're good for enjoying materially. Now, when we talk about the devas, whether we're talking about residents of higher planets or by devas, we mean like the rulers of those planets, or the powerful, influential beings, particularly powerful, influential beings in those planets. These are roles that people like you and me play, and we may have played in previous lives. They're roles of tremendous responsibility within those realms. Now, whether it's who, the nature of who's playing those roles, it's said that sometimes even Lord Vishnu himself plays those roles when there's nobody quite qualified. They're kind of like posts, right? Like someone becomes president, then they move out of that post, someone else becomes president. The roles of the devas are something like that, although they're on very long time scales. And those, in general, the devas are, let's say, subordinate to. They realize I work on behalf of Lord Vishnu. And in that sense, we can call them devotees. But it doesn't mean that they've developed this prema, that they develop pure love for God, and they may sometimes still become confused. And Bhagavatam is going to point that out to us again and again. In Bhagavatam, in general, Lord Brahma is seen as an incredibly wise, incredibly he's like the voice of reason and deep insight again and again, but we see even he becomes bewildered and makes a fool of himself. We see Indra, who is kind of like the most successful ruler within the material realms, in the higher planets. We see that he makes a fool of himself, from time to time. So that may be rare, right? Bhagavatam may be highlighting rare instances where these things happen. but it's there to help us understand that the higher planets and the enjoyment there should not be our destination, even though texts like the Vedas may glorify those roles and those realms. That a more complete understanding is that even there, the soul never finds its true satisfaction. The soul struggles to find satisfaction. It's to help clarify for us what is the real purpose of all of this. It's not, again, not to be like a pinball, bouncing up to the higher planets and enjoying beyond levels that we can imagine in this realm, and then bouncing back to the lower planetary systems and suffering intensely, and then bouncing back towards the middle and bouncing this way and bouncing that way. But understanding the Devas and the struggles that they go through helps us understand that material pleasure is not the goal in life, but that there's something much higher. I want to see if Raghunath, are you here?
I'm back, brother.
Oh, why didn't you tell me, man? I'm just trying to. I would have been handing it off to you.
Attentively.
Okay. Would you like to share something? We got about 6
Not on
minutes
that
left.
question. Maybe we could sneak in another question.
Okay, we got one more question. This one's for you then.
Okay.
You ready? This one is written. This one is from someone named PD.
PD.
PD. Hey,
Okay.
PD.
Hey, PD.
He says, I remember 1996 like I imagine many hippies think of 1969.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. Civ and Rage Against the Machine and Earth Crisis, Integrity, and above all else, for me, Shelter. So these are bands that he was into, right? Kind of mostly hardcore.
Not just
punk rock
hardcore, but
bands,
they were a
yeah,
lot of
well,
the bands he mentioned, like spoke of like sort of meaningful things, living a life of
Okay.
integrity,
Yeah.
et cetera. So it was like his turning point. It was his Woodstock,
Okay. Yeah.
that era.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in Berkeley over the summer, going to Epicenter and 924 Gilman. Are these
These are famous
clubs?
places in San Francisco area,
Clubs,
Bay
like
Area.
where bands would
Yeah.
play or something? Yeah.
Yeah, where bands would play. We played there many times.
Okay. And he said, and Hare Krishna's on. I was in. So I guess he's saying back in 1996, I was in Berkeley over the summer, going to Epicenter and 924 Gilman. And Hare Krishna's on Telegraph Avenue asking me if I knew about Prabhupada, smiling and friendly when I pronounced it wrong. And just getting into it and thinking everything was about to change. I guess he means like in his own life, right?
Sure.
His or her own life.
These are exciting points in people's lives. They go
coming
on
of
life.
age.
They get into music. The music's leading them in a whole different direction than they were going. And then all of a sudden they meet some spiritual guy on the street. Yeah, it's exciting.
He says, I think about the normal everyday college kids I knew that started wondering about communism and veganism right after. Like my friends' jock roommates literally talking about it with me in dorms when I shared Mantra or Evil Empire with them, a couple of records. In an ideal world, here comes the question. In an ideal world, what would you have liked to happen from that momentum? What was the big hope at this time for you and Paramananda, who was in your band, Shelter?
Great question. I can't speak for Paramananda, but I'm sort of like can probably be a little clued in. I think at that point there was like some deep realization, like our investment should be in our spiritual life instead of our material life, and that we're tasting something very high, even though materially speaking, I mean, we were high. I've been seeing people writing on the message board, "Hey, it was a great show. You played in New Haven." We played all over the world, and especially in 1996. And part of me was like, we're experiencing something high from what we're being fed spiritually when put it next to the previous things we were tasting. Like you were saying earlier in the question, when you get a higher taste for something. So here, imagine like you're eating like, I don't know, just some, army rations. And then all of a sudden someone brings out like a multi-course meal, the most fine, refined vegan, vegetarian food you've ever eaten, like using multiple spices as opposed to can of beans. You're like, this is so much better. I want other people to eat this too. So it's a desire that you're tasting something wonderful and you want other people to experience that taste. And I think it's also an analyzation, because if you're thinking, we were on a path for a while of how to live a clean life, how to fix world problems, how to deal with our own out of control senses. This was our ongoing questions, and we threw it against different groups. We threw it against the anarchists. We threw it against the skinheads. We threw it against the the yippies and the hippies, and all these different groups were handing out flyers wherever we went. And we sort of settled on, there's no material solution to these material problems. You have to go to spirit to find solutions. And that was like, and when we got that, it tied it all together. How can we find change in the world? How can we change ourselves? And how can it be the ultimate good? And when we realize, like, this is the ultimate good, the things that people are really coming to the forefront of their lives right now, in the political arena or in the social arena, I feel like we asked these questions when we were teenagers, and it set us on a trajectory to sort of like eat it all up and sort of give our lives to God. And it wasn't a fanatical thing, although it might appear fanatical because I quit my band and I moved to an ashram. It was like a long thought out journey of like, this life is so short. What can I contribute that will not just change me, but change the world I live in? And I think that's what we were trying to give other people at the same time. And in the process of giving, we're actually transforming ourselves. And to this day, I feel like the real success in this world is how much you give, And so I want to die doing what we're doing right now. And it might not come in the form of the podcast. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll come in the form of some other thing. But I want to be like my teachers have been to me. They've like dedicated their lives to spirit. That doesn't mean like they're floating away in outer space. It means they've dedicated their life to giving transcendental knowledge to heal the soul, to resurrect the soul, which is ultimately the knowledge to tie all of us together as different beings in different bodies. And I think that's what was that's what you were tasting at the time. And that's what we're trying to do right here, right now. And I think one of the big wins is that was 1996. Right now is 2023. And you're still touched in your heart. For me, that's a win.
Beautiful, Raghunath.
What do you think about that, sir?
Love it.
You love that? Well, all
And
right.
with that, I think we're done, right?
Well, what a nice way to start our Saturday. And there's no show tomorrow, people. We're going to miss you. But it's my daughter's birthday. And thanks to the Dead President's Lounge in Albany, that's the tattoo shop, our good friend Dustin, a regular listener, he's helping me buy her guess what I'm getting her?
I know exactly
A
what you're
rubber
getting.
arm! A rubber arm!
Oh, really?
And a tattoo gun. So she can practice tattoos on a rubber arm. And you know what? She's 18. What can I do about that? She's 18. That's what I did. A lot of crazy things at 18 too. And maybe I wouldn't have picked out my daughter to be a tattooist, but she wants to try it.
All right.
Getting her a rubber arm and a tattoo gun. Let's see where this goes.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for joining us. See you Monday, 6 a.m. And remember, May 20th, come up to Super Soul Farm for myself and the spiritual scientist for an all-day affair and dinner. It's going to be $108. And it's worth it. Just to hang out with the spiritual scientist will be great. And there's limited spaces. So if you want to come, please email Mara ASAP. supersoultrainings@gmail.com. supersoultrainings@gmail.com. We love you, people. It's a beautiful day. For a beautiful day, have a beautiful weekend. And everybody chant one round of japa today, at least. But chant it with all your heart.